Welcome back to the Hawkins Reports, a Stranger Things podcast by LSG Media. I'm your host, Dean.
I'm Jessica.
And on this week's episode, we're talking Chapter 2, The Weirdo on Maple Street. Jessica, I'm excited that we have decided to do this, to talk about this television show, because it's good. Now, full disclosure, we have seen 3 or 4 episodes.
We've seen the first 4 episodes already.
We've seen the first 4 episodes, but we did stop in the interest of wanting to preserve some spoilers for the podcast. Now, when we discuss each episode, we will not spoil the next episode, and we're going to pretend we don't know what's coming for the next couple, even though we kind of do. So that's how we're going to play this thing, and we're just being transparent about that, so we're not over here acting like a bunch of jabronis. So without further ado, I think we should talk about Chapter 2, The Weirdo on Maple Street.
This is mental.
At least she can talk. She said no and yes. Your 3-year-old sister says more.
She tried to get naked.
There's something seriously wrong with her. Like, wrong in the head.
She just went like...
I bet she escaped from Pinhurst.
From where?
The nut house in Curly County.
You got a lot of family there?
Bite me. Seriously, though, think about it. That would explain her shaved hair and why she's so crazy.
Why she went like...
She's an escapee is the point. She's probably a psycho.
Like Michael Myers.
Exactly! We should have never brought her here.
So you just wanted to leave her out in that storm?
Yes, we went out to find Will, not another problem.
I think we should tell your mom.
I second that.
Who's crazy now?
How was that crazy?
Because we weren't supposed to be out tonight, remember?
So?
So, if I tell my mom and she tells your mom and your mom...
Oh, man.
Our houses become Alcatraz.
Exactly. We'll never find Will.
Jessica, tell me about your initial impressions of The Weirdo on Maple Street.
I liked this episode a lot. I really like 11, I think is what stands out to me so much, is that she is just wonderful as a child actress. I mean...
Some of the sentiments on Facebook were child actors typically suck.
That's true.
It is true, right?
But there are 2 child actresses who have caught my heart over the past 6 months or so, and their names are 11 in the show and Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones. And other than that, I don't even know.
How about the rest of the kids?
I love the kids in this. I mean,
they're awesome.
This is so
They're
well
great.
cast. But she's just, I mean, wonderful. Like, her reactions to things are it's great. It's so believable to me that she's seeing this stuff for the first time, that she's scared, that she's so happy to have a friend. It's really cute. It's very well done.
Yeah, this episode, you could tell, wanted to focus on Elle this week. And, you know what I'm saying. It's not released weekly, dummy. But they definitely wanted to focus on the Elle character. They wanted to give us that E.T. sort of I'm a stranger in a strange land feeling, where she is being shown around by Michael, who is very attentive. It's adorable. He takes care of all of her needs, and he's always looking out for her. And I like the way this whole thing goes down. It's another good episode, another solid hour of television that Stranger Things has put forward. And there's plenty here to talk about. We definitely, I think we see Joyce take a little bit more of a backseat this week in favor of Elle to get us the Elle character. We still focus a lot on the kids. We get a little bit more, of course, from Nancy and, of course, from Chief Hopper. So
No, I don't feel like this was very heavy on Hopper or Joyce. This was more heavy on the kids.
Absolutely. This is definitely a kid-centric episode. But a couple of reveals on Hopper and potential history with Joyce.
Yeah, I called that the second I basically just saw that he existed. I was like, those 2 definitely boned.
Yeah.
And I still feel
Small
like I'm
town.
right.
You know how it goes.
And I don't actually know that yet. So if that is revealed in the show, I'm not to that point. But
Right.
I feel pretty
They
good
say
about
They say it in the woods on the search party.
Well,
this
they
episode.
ask. He asks
Yeah.
if they did.
Yeah, and the non-answer is kind of an answer in my book.
If you say so.
All right, what we're going to do is explicate our way through this. We're going to talk about each scene, and then we will get to a couple of our listener comments, and then we will wrap up with some final thoughts. Now, a lot of times our final thoughts segment does get into some speculative territory, but because we know the next 2 episodes, we don't really get into speculative territory because that would not be honest. That would be pretty disingenuous if we were trying to pretend to guess about what was going to happen.
I used to do
as
this
a
when
segment.
I was younger.
That's adorable.
Watch ahead on shows and
Oh yeah, you used to tell me that you'd watch stuff. Be like, what was
Lost.
that? What Lost? You watched it without your dad, and
Yep, me and my dad were watching Lost together, season 1 when it came out on DVD before season 2 started, and we were watching it together. And I used to, when he was at work, if I wasn't at work, I would watch an episode or two ahead, and then I would rewatch it with him, pretend I hadn't seen it, and try to like mimic my reactions the first time I watched it. I don't even know if to this day he knows about that, but
that's dark.
I should probably tell him the truth.
That's dark. Not really. It's not dark. I'm being dramatic, as usual.
Typical.
Well, we open up on an exterior shot, a very nice symmetrical night shot of this home, which, of course, is the Wheeler residence. And it's raining, it's thunder and lightning. Of course, if you're going to have a Stephen King-inspired 80s type of kids horror sci-fi television show, you definitely want to keep the rain and the thunder aplenty, especially for your evening shots. It definitely adds an element of creepiness to the entire setting. And this week, we still are doing this thing. You know, I thought more about this. In the first episode, one of the things I talked about was we have these tonal shifts in this that seem odd, but I'm starting to get the rhythm now. I'm starting to feel like, okay, when we're with the kids, it can't be, you know, guts in glory. There has to be a lighter element when you're dealing with the perspective of children, which I think this show does a really good job of. It gives us the perspective of the children. We can all relate because any one of us were children, unless we're replicants.
I mean, most of us, yeah, sure, we're
unless
children.
we're replicants or Cylons. But I think I'm pretty confident everyone listening to this was in fact a child at one time.
That's what you think.
So perspective-wise, I think we can get our heads around hanging out with friends, keeping something from parents, having these childlike delusions of grandeur that make us feel like we have something important to do. And the rub in this is that they actually do. This is an important secret. There is something important going on here. And the chemistry continues to shine in this episode. And that brings us right into them in the basement, the boys arguing. They're not sure about her.
They're asking her questions that she's not
hilarious.
answering. Lucas says she's freaking him out. Mike tells Lucas that he's freaking her out. Dustin thinks she's deaf and is like clapping in her face, kind of like we do when we think dogs are deaf. We like make a noise on the side of their head to see if they move, and that's what he does to poor Elle.
I do that to my grandmother sometimes. I just slap my hands in her ear and she doesn't move.
So she's deaf.
She's actually dead, but it was a bad joke. Sorry.
Then she probably wouldn't hear you.
She doesn't hear me down there. All right. So yeah, they do their thing.
They're great. It's tough to do scenes like this where it's like back-to-back chaos, everyone talking over everyone. That's very hard to do, especially scripted. And I think it's even harder for kids to ad-lib, I assume. So I'm sure this is scripted, and they do a very good job of the talking over each other and, you know.
Right. So Mike gets her some clothing, and she kind of rubs her face on it like a little kitty cat. Meow. Rubs her face on the clothes.
Is that what they do?
And then starts
to get naked.
Starts to change in front of them. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. The kids freak out as kids would.
It's so funny.
It's a cute scene. And then Mike shows her to the bathroom. And this was telling, which we do get the answer to probably why she feels this way later in the episode when she has her little flashback. But she does not want that door shut.
Right.
She is going to take her privacy, but she doesn't want the door shut because of course, being thrown into what appears to be some sort of solitary confinement, which we learn about later. So when she's doing her thing, Lucas is concerned, of course. Lucas is the voice of reason.
Oh, yeah.
He is the one trying to lay it down to be as realistic as possible. Not only is he the voice of reason, but he also wants the kids to stay on track by saying that she's probably crazy. She probably escaped from the loony bin. She's probably wrong in the head. And she's probably from the local nut house. Dustin and Lucas bring up telling Mike's mom, and Mike convinces them that the moms will fucking put them in lockdown if that's what happens.
And they care about this because that means they won't be able to look for Will, and that is the task at hand.
Yes. So it's the perfect blend of writing here, and that is something that I do like about Lucas. Although Lucas plays a bit of a skeptic, he is primarily interested in locating Will.
Lucas is the voice of the people.
Yeah,
you know, there's always that character that's the voice of the people. In real life, I know we're adults, but we still look at this and it's like, okay, clearly this is a crazy person that escaped from a nut house. That's what we all think, isn't it? If we, as adults, like only kids are going to give this girl the benefit of the doubt. And so Lucas is like the adult in this scenario. We got to do what we're supposed to do. We have to make sure everything is right, and we need to find Will.
I like it a lot. In the chat, Floyd's asking, are kids better actors now? I mean, even something like E.T. or Goonies, the performance were way more stilted in acting than these kids. These kids and others today are almost method acting, in my opinion. So I guess he's acting, I guess if I can try to translate what he's saying is that I think he's asking, do you think kids are better at acting now than they were back in the day? And I'm going to say I don't think so.
Oh, I disagree.
Because I think that you cannot beat Stand By Me. Those kids are fucking brilliant. Now, here's what I do think. I think that part of the problem that I think part of it goes to this. I think that's a good question and a good discussion. I think that the kids in Stand By Me are standout actors as far as those roles are concerned. I mean, River Phoenix, fucking Will Wheaton, whatever the hell, and then River Phoenix. Did I say River Phoenix? Corey Feldman.
River Phoenix.
So all three of those kids, and what's his name, the kid who played Byrne. But the whole crew, I thought they just did such a good job. Now, here's what I do think. I think acting in general is something that changes over time. And Matthew and I just discussed this because we covered Forbidden Planet on the Science Fiction Film Podcast. And those people are good actors in that. They're old school thespians that come from stage. And the way they shot those movies and the way they positioned the cameras and the way they didn't move the camera around a lot and the way they didn't get too cute with the photography was they stood still and they said their lines and they did their thing. And that's just a question of how movies have evolved over time. But it's tough to say. I think sometimes kids from back in the day have an exception where they would ham it up because that's what they were supposed to do. I think kids were supposed to be like hams and ham it up and be cute for the camera and put on a show, razzle dazzle, wave your hands. And I think maybe back in the day you had kids doing that more than they did today, whereas maybe today the craft has evolved for kids a little bit. But I don't know if generally speaking kids are always better actors now than they were then, because I've seen some pretty shitty kid actors now.
Yeah, I think those exist, but I think in general, the way like when we're training children to be actors, because that's what happens, by the way, when you're a child actor, you're not just some rando who's in the right place at the right time. Like your parents are grooming you for this from childhood. It doesn't just happen randomly. And I think it's different now. The culture's different. People look at being an actor like this serious job and something to work towards. I'm not saying they didn't then, but I think that a lot has to do with the way people raise their children. If you raise your children, you want your children to be an actor or an actress, I think that you are a lot different now than you used to be then. I think it's taken more seriously. And I think Stand By Me is an exception to the rule of the fact that I do think child actors are better today because I think that more of an emphasis is put on it almost.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I think if you asked the professionals of old if they took their craft seriously, of course they would say yes.
Yeah,
sure. But I think maybe part of it is that there wasn't there wasn't this gigantic depth in just our culture in, say, the 50s and the 60s. You know, we know a lot more about the world now. We have a lot more shit at our disposal. Back then, if you watched 50s movies, it was always like, yeah, we talk like this. They're all kind of similar. Like they had that kind of thing going on. So I don't know if that's part of it. It's tough to say. Obviously, I have not researched this topic, but my initial impressions are that I don't know. I don't know, man. I thought Goonies was pretty fucking solid. I'd have to watch it again. It's been a long time, but I don't seem to remember being cheesy.
You know what I think about?
What?
I look at this and the actors in this, and I look at Stephen King's It, the miniseries, and the actors in that. I compare the two.
Shit production.
No, but that's just what I think of because it's a similar thing. This group of kids doing this thing away from their parents, and that's just the comparison I cannot help but make. And whenever I make that comparison, I'm like, oh god,
yeah, it's not.
And then I get so excited about the remake that I cannot even.
Another thing you have going on here too, and this is pretty common. A lot of times we compare characters because we give less lenience to adult actors. But I think when you have children who are going to be involved in an 8-hour production, now mind you, they haven't been involved 8 hours at this point, and they're already killing it. But you also have a longer time to figure out these characters, to direct these kids. The pacing is a little bit slower. They go home every night. It's not like they're working these ridiculous, grueling shifts on movie sets. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that plays into it, but I don't. I guess after all of that, I don't have an answer because I haven't looked at it enough. But if my instinct is to go to Stand By Me and to think about this, I think they're pretty comparable.
All right. So that's one case
That's all
where
I
it's
got.
comparable. I'll give it to you.
So, and you could probably find plenty of bad moments with kids in modern film, in modern TV.
Yeah. Carl from The Walking Dead, for example.
Wow, that's wrong. You be nice to that boy.
He's terrible. And
He's a kid.
he's really terrible.
He's a kid. Come on.
He's the worst.
Let's get past it.
Dawn on Buffy, the first season she was on Buffy. Oh my God. And she was a teenager at that point.
So Mike's plan is to essentially ditch Eleven on the mom. So he's like, you stay here. You're going to go around front. You're going to ring the bell or whatever he tells them.
This to me is so true to how children think. We don't want to get in trouble, so we can't just go tell mom. So what are we going to do? We're going to let her hide out overnight. Then we're going to send her to the front door. And my mom will know what to do.
Yes.
Because isn't that what it's like when you're growing up?
Yes.
No matter what happens, you know that your parents are going to know the answer, which is crazy now because I'm an adult and I'm certainly not a parent, but I'm still an adult. And I never know what to do. And sometimes I still call my dad to try to tell me what to do.
There you go.
And I'm 30, so that's kind of a problem.
Mike and Lucas and Dustin, they take off. So they're out of there. Mike convinces them that if this place goes into lockdown, like we already said, so they're satiated for now. Lucas and Dustin take off. Mike and Elle chat about her tattoo. Of course, we come up with her name now. That tattoo is really creepy.
I love this moment, though, when he says, "My name's Mike, short for Michael. I'll call you Elle, short for 11." It's just so cute.
He's awesome. I love this
love
kid.
him.
I
I
love
am
this
so
kid.
excited about this kid.
Mike settles on calling her Elle. He tells her goodnight. She tells him goodnight.
Good night, Mike.
Yep. Mike goes upstairs. Elle goes to sleep, and we hold on her for a minute before we cut to the credits here. But obviously, a lot of trauma here with her.
Yes.
That's obvious, of course, as the episode progresses. So then we get our opening credits, and we come back.
We're at the buyer's house.
We have this lovely exterior shot where we pan across the forest. We settle on Joyce's home. We go inside the home. And we see Jonathan making breakfast. So this is something we talked about last episode, which was Jonathan taking on the mantle of responsibility without a father figure there. And he's making the breakfast. He seems to be the calm of the storm of this household, right?
Right.
Joyce is frantic. She's smoking. She's got a lot of nervous energy, obviously. She's talking about copies, the Xerox place. What are they, 10 cents a copy, she says? She's a mess. She's not paying attention. And Jonathan is trying to calm her down. Again, this kid, Jonathan, here's somebody I want to see more of in this show.
I agree.
I like this kid. I think that he has a very sympathetic plight. Even though he's got that whole emo thing going, I like the idea that he has taken on this responsibility. And I think there is an interesting story there. He cares deeply about his mother, and he cares deeply about Will. And that comes through in this episode with Jonathan a lot. And that's something that I really like. I like that he has some depth to him. He's not just some older brother. All of these people feel real to me, and that's something I like. So, Chief Hopper gets to the house. Joyce is upset. She's been waiting 6 hours. Hopper looks at the phone receiver, which is fried, assumes it was the storm. Joyce says, you don't think this is weird? Like, you think this is just the storm. Now, obviously, Joyce hasn't revealed any of this crazy shit going on just yet, right? But her reaction to him thinking it's simply the storm is obvious that there's something more going on here that we know. And Hopper's like, well, she's a little unhinged. She starts to say, I know it was Will. He's like, it's a prank.
Right, and I accidentally mentioned this on the last episode. This is something that, if you're
Did we
like...
edit that out? I think we edited that.
All right, well, I accidentally said this on the last episode, and Dean edited it out. So if you listen live, though, you know I accidentally said this. Anyway, I watch a lot of murder shows, as people who listen to this podcast and other podcasts may know. And this is like a thing that happens is not even just the prank phone calls, but the tip lines too. When something is on the news, people go crazy and get themselves involved and do shit like this all the time. That's a normal thing when something like this is big news for her to be getting prank phone calls from somebody pretending to be Will.
Right.
So that's a logical explanation for Hopper to jump to.
Yes. Joyce wants trust. That's her comeback. So Joyce insists that she knows her own son's breathing and then puts it back on Hopper and says, wouldn't you know your own daughter's?
These two have definitely slept together.
There's a heavy, well, this is because his daughter's dead. There's a heavy silence here, and then he just storms out. He says, I'm going to go to Lonnie's. Jonathan rushes out, and he wants to go with Hopper.
No, he wants to go instead of Hopper.
Because he doesn't want him to spook him. He's like, don't scare him away. He's not going to want to come out if he sees the police. And Hopper says no, and he peels out and takes off.
Correct.
I like it. Again, Jonathan looking out for Will, knowing the smart approach here.
I see a familiarity between Joyce and Hopper beyond the fact, yes, we know that Hopper's kid is dead. But I feel like the fact that Joyce can say that to him brings up more familiarity than just somebody in the town who knows he has a dead daughter.
Yeah.
I feel like that is more of an indication that there was at some point an intimate relationship between the two.
Yeah,
To be able to talk about somebody's dead daughter like that to them, I feel like indicates they know each other well, much better than we've seen.
I think so. And I think it also shows that her saying that annoys him because she should know better, and that shows some kind of intimacy.
Agreed.
Right. So at the Wheelers, Mike and Nancy have a little bit of battle. I love the scene.
I like
so
how it
funny.
starts with him making the waffles and he makes an extra one, puts it in his pocket. And then they're just like the typical siblings. Like he's trying to like passive aggressively like sell her out, and
So
she's
funny.
so mad.
Do a lot of studying last night? What was your test on? Human anatomy? So downstairs, Mike and Elle do some talking. He brings her the Eggo from his pocket. I know, right? That was huge in the 80s.
I know, I used to love them.
Mike
I still do.
Mike instructs Elle to go to the front door to ring the bell because his mom will know who to call. So he's still on this.
And Elle says no.
No. So Mike starts to sniff out that she's in trouble here, and then he just says, "Well, who are you in trouble with?" And she just says bad, and then pantomimes a gun to their heads.
Yeah, they're gonna kill her and Mike.
That is amazing. This is so the stakes go up a little here, don't they? As soon as she does this, Mike starts to realize, okay, something bad is going on. This isn't some runaway from an abusive parent. This is something deeper. And I think even Mike gets that as a young kid.
Yes, 100%.
So they continue. Mike changes the plan, and he just says, listen, you stay here, and that's that. So we get a look in on Private Joker. We see that phone recording that we got a quick look at on in the first episode being listened to. They call
This
the
is
call
when
that
Joyce called
placed.
Flo about
Yep.
the phone
Yep.
getting electrified.
Electrified.
There's
Which,
the
of course,
electrifying.
piques their interest. They understand what this means, obviously.
And I was like, fuck, I gotta go to that house now.
So we have a search party. Hopper leads a search party with some deputies and town folk. We'll learn that Hopper and Joyce may have screwed, I think is the word.
Yeah, but and this is again this intimacy between the two. Is Hopper basically says like Joyce is this close to losing it, and then when one of the other bros says that Joyce is crazy, he's like, "Hey, her kid's missing. Like, give her some respect."
Yeah.
So he can say that about her, but somebody else can't.
Right.
Again, let us return to like these two definitely banged.
Nice.
100%.
Nice. Nancy and school. So Steve invites Nancy and Barbara over. Her parents are out, or his parents are out. Just the five of them are going to be there. These kids, of course, see Jonathan posting the missing posters. And this is a very nice, not too bad. I mean,
He might have killed his missing brother. That's not them talking mad shit.
That's one kid saying it, and then Steve kind of smacks him, and then she goes over. So it was only the one kid.
I'm pretty sure they're all assholes except Nancy and Barb.
No, I don't think they're that one-dimensional. I disagree. I disagree.
I think Tommy Age and Carol are definitely one-dimensional.
Okay. So the kids see Jonathan posting the posters. So Nancy walks over, and she apologizes. So we see this genuine humanness from her. And this is something we talked about last time. You know, this is the Winona Ryder character from the 80s. I am hanging out with this. It has a very Heathers feel to me, where I'm hanging out with this crew, but I feel bad for these other people, so I will approach them despite the fact that I may be tainted with their non-popular grossness.
This is so like stereotypical 80s movie to me, that like there's the loser kid by his own, the cool kids make fun of him, the one super pretty cool girl who's not really cool goes over and talks to him.
For sure.
But I'm fine. I'll let it go.
There's plenty of tropes in this show.
I'm
no
okay.
doubt about it.
It's not the type of thing where it's like we don't want tropes. It's kind of playing on that a little for the nostalgia factor.
Yeah, I think the tropes here play into the nostalgia just fine. Easy on the mic there, killer.
Sorry, I don't know
So
how that happened.
she apologized to him, a quote, about everything, end quote, and that everyone is thinking about him, and it sucks, and he agrees.
Everyone's thinking about how he murdered his brother.
That's right. Nancy calls Will smart and assumes he is okay. The bell rings. She takes off. We hear an announcement about the assembly for Will Byers. So that scene sort of wraps up.
Yeah.
Again, we're seeing what looks like an eventual collision course of some sort of friendship between, I'm guessing, Nancy and Jonathan.
They're definitely gonna bang too.
All right.
I feel pretty high on that.
That's good.
All right, that's not a spoiler that I know.
Can you just keep track of everyone who either has banged or will bang? That's very important.
Want me to make a
this.
list?
Yeah, please do.
It is actually important. Intimate relationships are important in such things.
So Lucas and Dustin in class, they discuss the plan and how stupid it was. Dustin wonders
If Mike slept with Elle. I'm just kidding.
Jesus Christ. You think he boned her? Little kids talking
If they
like
were
that.
2 years older, that's what they'd be saying. Seriously, that's how old we are.
They discuss if maybe she slept naked. Lucas wants to be rid of the freak so he can find Will. So Lucas is trying to stay focused here. He wants, again, he's trying to be reasonable. He's like, let's get this kid out of our mind, out of our heads. We can't help her. It's beyond our capability. But somehow finding Will is not beyond our capability because I'm a child and that's how I think.
And he's our friend, so we can save him.
Yeah, so I do like that. I do like that Lucas wants to get rid of Elle so they can focus on Will. Speaking of Elle, Mike and Elle walk around. This is the E.T. scene, right?
Yeah, Mike cut school so he could hang out with her.
He's showing Will around, shows her
Vice
the
versa.
whopping 22-inch...
There's actually no Will.
Whatever. Shows her the whopping 22-inch TV.
Way bigger than Dustin's.
Yeah, she looks at the family photographs.
She says that Nancy is pretty.
And then Mike says, I guess.
I think that is very sweet and very... this tells you something about Elle and that she has been raised as this lab experiment, but she can look at this picture of this girl and think, oh, she's so pretty and like want that. You know what I mean? That's how I felt about it. It's like she looks at this girl and she's like, look at this girl who is pretty. Like, why am I not like that almost?
Ooh, I like it. Getting deep into her psychology here, huh?
Yeah.
I like it. So Elle tries the lazy boy. This is
So
a
cute.
fucking adorable scene.
God.
It's nice to see her. It's nice to see Elle uncontrollably laugh and smile. She kind of has this moment of just uncontrollable happiness. In that moment, she's not thinking about this ridiculous life she has come from, and I like that a lot.
It's so adorable, and there's no other word to describe it. It's adorable. I love her. She's delightful.
She is great. We get back on Jonathan. He's in the car listening to The Clash. Should I stay or should I go now? You got to watch your big man hands around that mic.
I'm sorry.
What are you, Caitlyn Jenner, with those hands?
No, I really have big hands. It's not my fault.
You don't really have
I was
big
born
hands.
that way.
All right, so Jonathan is driving around. He thinks back to listening to this with Will. I love the scene. This is very Stand By Me to me. This is very much Will Wheaton and John Cusack in that flashback. He's like, hey, you want my Yankees
Did you
cap?
watch Stand By Me yesterday?
I watched
Jesus
it
Christ.
probably 100 fucking times. I saw it so many times as a kid. It was my favorite movie forever. It's one of my top 10 movies of all time. Easily.
I just had a good podcast idea.
Cool. Hang on to it.
All right, well.
So he talks about Bowie, the Smiths, and basically all the all the new wave, all the British stuff. So we hear Joyce arguing on the phone about excuses. Will gets up, shuts the door, and that's Jonathan does that. And then Will says he isn't coming, is he? Obviously referring to Lonnie coming to pick him up for a baseball game of sorts. And this next scene is very telling about the Jonathan character. And this is something that shows me a little bit about Jonathan. It shows that he has agency. First of all, he's a great brother.
Agreed.
Second of all, he is trying to empower Will to have confidence in himself.
To be himself, exactly.
And that is something that I think is a great lesson for children to have. And that is to learn to find value in things intrinsically and not extrinsically, versus worrying about what his dad wants or thinks he should like what you want to like because you want to like it. And don't be ashamed of that. And that's essentially what he's telling him. And I like this moment of almost nervousness or anxiety in Jonathan after he has this conversation with Will, because then he says, well, do you like The Clash?
Yeah, like he's afraid.
He wants him to like The Clash so bad, but he doesn't want to tell him he has to like The Clash. And they nod and they rock out a little. It's cute, man. It's a really touching moment.
It's sweet. It's telling of both of them. And Will's upset. And Jonathan says, well, do you even like baseball? And he's like, no, but sometimes it's fun to go with him.
Yeah.
And I think this is, I think, anybody who is a child of divorce, especially when one of the parents was absentee, finds this very relatable. It's very emotional for me to watch scenes of Jonathan and Will when they're discussing these things. I really think they get it right. That feeling of Jonathan protecting his little brother, the fact that Jonathan just hates Lonnie. He calls him Lonnie. It's not his dad. To the point where the first time Dean and I watched this episode, we were like, is he like a stepson? Like, is Lonnie his dad? And we actually assumed at first that Jonathan and Will were half brothers and Lonnie was only Will's dad, based on how Jonathan talked about Lonnie.
Right.
But then again, if you sit and think about it, I think some children of
what's-
divorce in these circumstances feel this way.
Yeah, and Cynthia kind of gives it away by saying the younger model, because they don't make it explicitly clear. Unless
No, he
you
says
really-
it's my boy.
Oh, he
says
does.
it's my
He
oldest.
does,
That's the
okay.
first thing he says. And I'm like, oh, I guess I was wrong.
Gotcha, okay.
But this is something that, again, this is very relatable to me. I relate to Jonathan a lot in this stuff. And it's very emotional. It's very well done. And it brings you back to being a 16-year-old kid going through this experience. They really, really do a good job with that.
Yeah, for sure. Joyce goes to work, but not really to work, just to her work to get a new phone, which costs her $22.56. This is a scene where we learn that she's taken some time off. She needs
Obviously,
an advance.
her son's missing.
Right. Donald balks a little bit, but reminds
That's exactly
him.
what I wrote. He balks, because that's like my favorite phrase.
Yep. But then Joyce says, I've been here 10 years. I have not missed a shift, and that she's worked all the holidays and that her son is missing. And, of course, Donald agrees. So the thing I like about this scene is that we don't know a lot about Joyce, do we? She's still
Right.
fairly mysterious
Very
at this point.
mysterious, other than she banged Topper.
We unfortunately, because of her singular focus while Will is missing, that is her franticness, her desire to get him back, the fact that she loves her kid. None of that is very unique from a mom perspective. Moms want to get their kids back. They love their kids.
Most moms
Right.
do.
They don't want their kid to fucking be gone, obviously. So there's nothing quite unique about her yet. But she's doing a good job of acting this way, obviously.
I like this scene a lot. I like that Donald is right away, Joyce, you don't have to work. And she's like, I'm not here to work, but I need an advance. And right away, he's like, okay.
Right.
But then when she's like, I need 2 weeks, he's like,
You're pushing it.
and there's something of like, he cares for Joyce. She's worked for him for 10
Yes.
years, but at the same time, he's like, I don't know about her.
A realistic response, I thought.
I like this too. And I thought this said a lot about Joyce, that she was like, no, I need 2 weeks. This is why. I'm going to explain it to you. You're going to give me his phone. You're going to give me a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, this is what I mean. We don't know much about Joyce, really, but this scene reveals a little bit more. She is assertive. She is smart. She is a
good
valuable
worker.
employee. She has clout with this Donald character. So we're getting little clues into Joyce, but as we've said at the top of this episode, that this is really, really going to be more about the kids this episode.
Correct.
So let's talk about the evil hazmat dudes who've been
Yeah.
scoping out Joyce's home, the buyer's residence.
They pretend to be like a telephone repairman and knock on the door. Like,
Yeah. So they walk around the property with some gizmos and doohickeys, and their search takes them to the fateful shed where Will went missing, and they find some goo, which apparently
goo.
is extraordinary.
I wrote the same thing. They see goo in the garage and think extraordinary.
Right. So what's your take on this stuff so far?
I think that this stuff is going to become, I think this is going to be very mysterious for a good chunk of this series.
Yeah.
Until like, I'm talking maybe the last couple of episodes.
Okay.
But I see this, there is this connection between what took Will, something breaking out of the lab, and 11 getting out at the same time. We're all interconnected here.
Of course, yeah.
And I think there's the difference of where we have L and then we have this alien thing,
Yeah,
which I know is called the monster because I look at the cast list and they say the monster.
yeah.
So we have L, we have this monster that took Will, that killed the guy in the first episode that we saw. We know that he broke out at the same time L broke out. We know that Will went missing at the same place L appeared. There's obviously some intricate connection between the two of them.
Sure.
And between this, whatever it is that took Will.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, and I like that they're only giving us little snippets because it's not time for that yet. Now it's time for us to learn about the characters and their situations.
Yeah.
But the time will come eventually to get to the X-Files portion of this, which is this monster.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is some interesting developments coming here, but I also I have a small critique on this, and I need to ask myself what, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more when we get to the fence, which I will explain when we get to the fence. I'm going to hold off for now, and let's just talk about Mike and Elle hanging out. So he shows her Yoda.
I
Now,
love that part.
he can move stuff with his mind, which
And I was
think-
like, yeah, boring.
yeah,
so can I.
But this is what I mean with the Mike character. He's so attentive.
Yes,
He,
he's
you know,
adorable.
he's such a little. It's such a little kid thing. He wants. There's no time for contemplation. It's just like, what about this? Oh, check this out. What do you think of this? Oh, how about that? Oh, that's what
Oh,
this
you're looking
is.
at my trophies? Let me tell you about that.
All over her in terms of making sure she's accommodated for.
He is, as you would say, Dean, this is a Dean word, a sweetie pie.
He's a sweetie pie. So Elle spots the photo of the four friends and points to Will.
Before that, can I say one thing? Because I love this line. It made me laugh out loud both times.
Please do.
He shows her his trophies and he says, "We won first every year, except last year we placed third." Mr. Carr said it was totally political. I thought that was so funny. I don't know if it was like that in the 80s, but I feel like it's that way now. Like everybody gets a participation trophy. It's like they get to the point where it's like, oh God, these kids win the science fair every year. We better let somebody else win. It's just
I think it was
bullshit.
probably a modern jab, to be honest with you.
It was really funny.
Nestled in there. It's a good line.
It made me laugh.
When she points to Will, there is a strong evidence of fear here.
Yes.
I love this. So Mom gets home. Mike races Elle around to the closet to hide her and promises to her that he will not sell her out.
And he explains what a promise is.
Yes. What is a promise?
It's something that can't be broken. When
like magic. It's like magic.
It's like magic, essentially. But that is how he explains it to her in a way. And it's so different because I'm sure when you're an adult, you make promises you can't keep all the time, just like Lonnie. Yeah. But when you're a kid, you mean it. And that's the difference between, we see this. We just watched 2 scenes ago, someone make a promise and not keep it to their kid. But when Mike makes a promise, Mike means it.
Yeah. Elle has some pretty disturbing flashbacks here. So she screams for Papa.
Yes, and
she does. I guess
she's being dragged down a hall.
I guess Private Joker's her dad?
Or he has presented himself in that manner to her for as long as she has known him.
Yeah.
I'm up in the air on that. If he's actually her father or if he has just said, okay, I'm your papa.
Can we start to talk a little bit about some speculative thoughts for Elle a little bit?
As long as we're not being spoilery.
No, she has a weird grasp on language.
Yes.
Papa is it's not that common of a term, I feel. I feel like most people say dad, daddy, dad. Papa, it almost seems like
grandfather?
I know, but it almost has I guess, Papa. I know you say that. I don't know. I might be reading into
Papa.
that.
He's my grandfather.
Yeah, maybe.
No, but I understand what you're saying. She does.
It's almost like it has a foreign twist to it.
She does have a weird grasp on language. This is actually fascinating to me, and I'm sure this is going to bore people listening to the podcast. But when I was in high school, and I originally took psychology, and we talked about language acquisition, how you learn to speak, and if you are not surrounded by people that speak, just the different things of how that works and how you come to comprehend language.
Sure.
That's actually really, really something that fascinates me. And so I'm very interested in her grasp on language, where she doesn't know what a promise is, or later we'll see she doesn't know what a friend is. She calls this man Papa. Why? Because one day he sat her down in a room and he said, "I'm your Papa. I'm going to take care of you." Mm-hmm. Or because he was actually her father and he raised her. And I don't know which one it is. I don't know if I'm going to find out which one it is. But I think it's interesting that we watch her be locked in an isolation room. She obviously does not have a lot of experience with people. And that's the connection of that to language is very interesting to someone like me.
I wonder, that's good stuff. I wonder if she is, I wonder if she has been in captivity forever and that explains her odd behavior. Or is it the trauma? Is it a combination of both? Did she have a normal life and then one day she gets whisked away to whatever camp this guy's brought her to? That's
what fascinates me. But I think based on her understanding of language, she had to have been whisked away at a young age.
Right.
To not know what friend or what promise means.
Sure.
It had to be before she was in school, of school age, I feel.
I think you're right.
And then that makes me wonder if maybe Brenner actually is her father or her grandfather or whatever the case may be, and has raised her since she was born. Or if they took her because they saw that she had this proclivity towards powers when she was young. It makes me think of, again, Lost, when Richard Albert goes to see John Locke as a kid and has him pick the item, and you don't know what that means, and a lot of people in the chat don't know what it means, but some do.
There you go.
So they know what I'm saying.
So Mike and Mom have a chat. Mike tells his mom that he stayed home sick, and he says that he didn't want to tell her because she made him go anyway last time, and that's when Mom does the old, "I want you to feel like you can talk to me here." This is just typical teenage, or not even teenage, but typical adolescent stuff here. He has a secret. His mom's nice enough, but he doesn't want to tell her because he doesn't completely trust, not Mom specifically. Adults specifically, because of their view of the world and how it's different from his. So he keeps the secret going.
And he also, the reason why his mother's so open, when he's like, "Oh, I'm sick, blah, blah," but it doesn't even mean anything. Right now, she's like, "Oh my God, his friend is missing.
Yeah,
I have to treat him a certain way because of this."
Right. And it probably, and not just I need to treat him a certain way because of this, but more like she's realizing this could be my kid. I should probably reevaluate.
I got to take care of him.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm sure all these parents are clutching their kids a little tighter right now.
Oh, of course.
So Mike returns upstairs to get Elle out of the closet. She has a wet face. Obviously, she's been crying. Mike asks if everything was okay. She nods and says she promises.
And this, to me, is lovely. Again, I don't know. She is so happy that he has come back for her.
Right.
She understands what a promise means.
Yes.
She understands that this kid cares for her and wants to help her. And in her reaction to him coming back, and she's obviously upset. She just had this memory. She's scared being in this closet. And her reaction of seeing him and him saying, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yes, I promise." It's because she is so happy that he came back for her. Because her whole life she's been locked in a closet without someone coming back for her. You know, it's just so, I mean, just that tiny thing says so much about her and about Mike.
I like the idea that there is an immediate bond formed just based on the simple trust alone of the fact that he's helping her.
Right.
And say what you want about maybe her having this isolation, but these kids have instincts, and even Elle has instincts to understand that she trusts this boy, Mike.
Yes.
Versus adults. Adults have not shown her any reason
Except
to
for
be
Benny.
trusted.
He was the best.
Right.
R.I.P. Benny.
But
we'll talk about you soon.
But even he was kind of an adult. She had to be on her toes around him, of course.
He called friggin' Child Protective Services and fucked everything up, and now he's dead.
I.e. government assassins. So Joyce sets up her new phone. The search party continues. We see Hopper and Callahan, I guess, is the white cops.
I don't know the names of any of these people, so I called them White Cop and Black Cop. And
There you go.
I'm sorry, but that's what I knew. So Callahan is White Cop.
Yeah.
What's Black Cop's name?
Black cop.
You racist motherfucker.
It's not racist. He's black. It's a fact. He's Black Cop. Pull up IMDb. We'll get his
God, I'm going to right now.
All right.
Stranger Things 2. I'm going to type in Black Cop actor. Let's see.
I'm sure you'll find it in very quickly. So anyway, the search party continues. Flo calms Hopper and brings up, you need to get to Benny's right away. So we are going to talk about the Benny's crime scene now.
Can I tell you the name of this person?
Yes.
Oh, gosh, hold on. Officer Powell.
Powell? I like that.
Yeah, he's right above Officer Callahan, and he is black, and Callahan is white. So now I know.
Callahan's white, huh? That's weird.
Gee, that's not a stereotypical white person name at all.
Fucking Irish as shit.
What if Black Cop's name was like O'Donnell? We'd be like, wait a second.
Are they both Irish? Black Irish. I don't know. So at Benny's, outside we see all the emergency vehicles. We go inside, and of course we see dead Benny. Flies.
Set up like a suicide. Those motherfuckers.
Flies, pistol, etc. And it's not good. So we do know that we are going to see Hopper pretend like maybe he thinks that Callan's like, oh, suicide. He's like, like he's not convinced.
No, he's definitely not convinced.
He is not convinced
at all. At first I was upset because I was like, oh no, Hopper is better than this. But then I realized he was just saying it and was moving on. I think it's interesting too, where either Callahan or Powell is like, you must feel like a big city cop again with all this stuff happening. And he's like, no, in the city, everybody was a stranger. Like, Benny was my friend. And I knew Benny and Hopper were friends, by the way. I could literally just tell from the second I saw both of them.
Couple of
I was
bros.
like, these guys are bros. They definitely drink beer together, 100%.
Yes, I completely agree with you there. I do like that. Like the difference is, in the city it's one thing, but here it's all my friends.
And I think that's understandable. When you're in a city like this place is supposed to be, it's obviously a very small town. Everybody knows everybody. It makes sense that Hopper was friendly with Benny.
Sure.
And this is hard for him. That he banged Joyce, and now Joyce's son is missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But everybody knows everybody.
When I lived in when I first moved back to Massachusetts, when I lived in Florida for a little while, my father and my stepmother, they owned a little diner. And, my father builds houses and shit, and they owned this little diner, and my stepmom ran it. And before we would go to work, before we'd go to the job site for the day, we would stop and get some breakfast, and it was just all townied up. And that's what it was like. You knew every fucking person in that place. You knew some story about them. You knew something about one of their relatives. And and cops would go in there and you're like, oh yeah, that's him. They used to ride Harleys together when they were kids. That small town feel is captured very effectively here. And I distinctly remember that when I spent time in the diner there before going to work. So Jonathan goes to Lonnie's.
Some chick answers the door. She's a teenager based on what Joyce said.
Not really, though. Her name is Cynthia. And I like how he bursts past her and starts to look for Will.
Yes.
He's not fucking around. He's here to find his brother. That's what he wants to do. Lonnie sort of kind of grabs him in the hallway and then introduces him to Cynthia.
My oldest.
Right. Back at Mike's, Mike tells Dustin and Lucas that Elle knows about Will. So this is a huge reveal for these kids.
Yes. Because they're shocked that Elle is still there.
Yeah. They thought she was going to be gone so they could get to the Will. But then he says, well, she might know where Will is. And then Mike tells them to think about it. You think it was a coincidence that we found her where he disappeared?
Right.
Doesn't make any sense. So Lucas turns to Elle and asks her directly, where is Will? So Lucas is tired of the bullshit.
Lucas is the voice of the audience.
He wants to know what's going on. Lucas wants to know why they haven't told Mom. Mike says that adults put them all in danger, and he does the pantomime with the gun thing. And Lucas is like, okay, no, we need to tell. I don't, this is ludicrous. And then we get a pretty raw display of power here.
No, she says.
Kaboom! And the door slams shut. And she says it again. No. Bang! And it shuts again. And we see her standing there, and we zoom in on her with a distinctive characteristic, the nosebleed.
A distinctive characteristic of mind power usage or time travel sometimes. But that's a different show.
Bang. So Lonnie and Jonathan continue. Jonathan keeps looking for Will. Lonnie seems flippant about the whole thing. So Lonnie doesn't have much respect for Joyce. He just assumes that this is something she's fucked up, and that's why he's gone right now, and he'll turn up.
I think Lonnie's an asshole. Don't get me wrong. Because I feel like what I am going to say now is going to sound like I'm like sticking up for him. But I'm not.
No, but I think
I'm
there's
just commenting on divorce as a whole.
Can I just say something? There's a little more depth to him than meets the eye. I
Agreed.
think the show is not going to just drop us a two-dimensional character. I think maybe Cynthia. But I think there's going to be more to Lonnie than meets the eye.
Lonnie is brought up to us as a two-dimensional character. This asshole who doesn't come to get his son for baseball games. His oldest son calls him by his first name. They don't have a relationship, blah, 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 blah. But this to me means something when he says, you should move to the city. We could see each other more. And Jonathan's like, you don't want to see me. And Lonnie's like, yes, I do. He talks about the fact that Will's missing and Jonathan's running wild, not in school. And he goes, maybe I'm not the asshole, all right?
Right.
And there's something to this. And I'm sure Lonnie is an asshole, but it's very two-dimensional. And there's certainly something to the fact that they both fall into the same trap of Joyce being like, your dad is an asshole, and Lonnie being like, your mom is an asshole, which is what divorced parents do in most cases.
And they shouldn't.
But they do.
I know. They shouldn't do that because you can't. I think that's such a bad thing. I'm not going to go off on a tangent. But but it is realistic. It's 100%
incredibly realistic.
And you put your kid in a tough position when you make fun of a parent that the kid's supposed to
Oh my God,
love.
you don't even know.
Oh, I do.
Oh boy.
So anyway, Cynthia, he slams a poster into his chest. And Cynthia...
In case you forgot what he looks like, he says about, to Lonnie.
Cynthia makes a younger model weird comment.
Which is creepy because that's called, I don't know, statutory rape, I think.
Hopper, excuse me.
Hooper? Who's Hooper?
He's a new guy. It's Hopper's brother.
He's a new character. No big deal.
Hopper and Earl. He interviews Earl.
Yeah, Earl seems like a cool dude, like someone who would hang out with Benny. And that's who he is.
We're just planning on going fishing. And the last time he saw Benny was yesterday. The man brings up the kid, but no kid.
And also, what's very important is there's literally no indication that Benny was suicidal.
No. We know that too.
But we don't know that Hopper knows that, and we listen to this guy. Everything was normal. We were talking about going fishing. We were doing this. He has no enemies except his exes. No big deal.
Yeah, and as soon as...
He was normal that day.
As soon as Earl brings up the kid, suddenly Hopper's paying attention.
Yes. Could it be... Well...
Could be. He is told that a boy tried to steal food out of Benny's kitchen. They show him an image of Will, but the witness says, no, that's not him. But Hopper presses, as police are prone to do, and he's like, are you sure? I mean, if there's a buzz cut here... And that's when now he's put doubt on Earl.
And now the West Memphis 3 is in jail. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
So, yeah, that's he puts doubt on Earl, and now Hopper's wondering, well, shit.
Well, maybe.
Maybe
it could be Will.
Right.
Yeah, maybe I murdered that chick. I mean, if you're going to let me go home to my parents after I tell you I murdered that chick because I'm Stephen Avery's nephew, sure.
Wow. So Nancy is trying her best to convince Barbara to get ready to go out and how to lie about it and how she's going to be studying. She goes downstairs to eat. Mike's friends are there. The kids aren't eating, but Nancy does.
They both ate 2 bologna sandwiches at lunch, so they're not hungry. But Nancy's going to eat because she's about to ask her mom to go out and do something. So she better eat her dinner.
She's on her and all her vegetables.
And drink her milk even.
I like the way she saddles up to it as kids do. She's all like, you know what, there's this specialty assembly thing, and like Barbara's totally going, and it'd be so weird if I didn't go.
Yeah.
And Mom's like, take the kids. They're like, no, that's the worst.
That's the worst for everybody involved. For Nancy, for the kids. Do you remember what it was like when you had to bring your younger sibling places?
I sure do.
Because I do.
I sure do.
It was the worst.
I didn't mind so much. So Mike coughs up his milk. Dustin bangs on the table as Elle sneaking around, walking around. And we move on to the evening search
The
party.
little sister starts crying. And they're like, oh, it's okay, little sister.
Yeah.
It was just a loud noise.
So Mr. Clark is part of the investigation. Mr. Clark, we know all about him.
What do I have to say about him? Wait, did he do something in this scene?
He found a piece of Elle's hospital gown.
Oh, he's the one who found it?
Yeah.
I don't trust that motherfucker.
No, you don't.
I just decided this right now. I feel like I don't even know.
You said that last time.
All right, well, I still don't trust him.
Okay. That's not a new perception. Is that what you're saying?
Perspective.
Thank you.
So clearly I forgot that I said this, but now I didn't even write that Mr. Clark did it. I just wrote that they found a piece of the hospital gown near the lab or in the pipe that goes to the lab. But now that I know that Mr. Clark found it, I'm really down on Mr. Clark, and I'm convinced he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
100%.
So they find the restricted area fence. Now, I did not expect this because it's so fucking close to everything. And that's something I want to talk about. This facility is near where all these people live. So you know how that goes, right? It makes this organization a little clumsy. So these people get out, they come through, and they are in a situation where this is right in their backyard. So right in their backyard, near Mirkwood, is this fence and this installation.
Yeah, but we knew this.
Escaped. But I'm just saying it's right there. It's right nestled against where they all live.
Because in the first episode, we saw that it was a restricted area. I'm fine with this. Because I think that, like, there being a weird, creepy lab in a small town, like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but I just think it's a little sloppy to assassinate Benny, and that's something I didn't say last week. I think they should have just played it just because it's too suspicious. Now you have... Oh, he went missing near this restricted fence. Oh, now Benny killed himself? Really? You're going to convince a small town that knows Benny of this? And that's something I just think is sloppy. I think you should have just went with the protective services thing, tried to get the girl out of there, and then played it cool instead of killing people in the small town that's in your backyard because you're going to raise suspicion.
I think these people are cocky bastards and they don't give a shit.
Yeah, perhaps, but I just think it's sloppy.
That's the impression I get.
I didn't pick up cocky on them. I just thought it was sloppy. Maybe
fine.
they're cocky. I haven't seen it yet, though. Anyway, Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Elle. Dustin brings up her superpowers, and Lucas brings up their friend, Will. So Elle doesn't know what a friend is. Friends tell each other things that parents don't know.
Their promises count.
They talk about spit swears, etc., and we move right on to Nancy and Barbara.
Speaking of friends, is what I wrote. Friends and secrets.
Yeah,
right? This is a great
segue
right here. That we get this talk of what friends are, what they mean. We watch Nancy be the typical, I'm a pretty girl and my best friend is ugly, so I'm going to do shit. And my best friend who's there for me always, I'm going to kind of shun her to the wayside, and I will regret that shit later.
That's right. She breaks it down that, his parents aren't there. He invited you over. So Barbara's like, do you understand what's going on here?
Yeah. I think what Barbara says is, Steve is a hoe.
Essentially.
That's what I wrote as a direct quote.
Carol and Tommy will be there, and Barbara's not convinced because she says they've basically been banging since 7th grade.
And then Barbara also says, Nancy, you're wearing a new bra, and why are you changing in front of me? I may be a lesbian. Not because she has short hair, people. So don't even think
That's
about
why
it.
I said it. You thought it. You said it.
Just because
you tried to put that on
I've
other
had
people.
short hair many a time in my life, and I'm certainly not a lesbian.
Ew, gross. So at Steve's place, they ring the bell. Barbara's uptight. Steve answers the door. Hopper and some chick he wakes up with. He gets out of bed, has a smoke
about
on
this
his...
chick he wakes up with. I gotta say stuff about her. Sorry, Dean's gonna murder me.
Hopper gets up out of bed and has a smoke on his porch in the night. His female friend wants to know what's going on. You ever feel cursed, he says. He brings up the fact that the missing person, the suicide, when they last came up, which has been, of course, many years. She wants him to come back inside. He asks for a minute. So Hopper's having a bit of a contemplative moment outside.
Here's what I have to say about this. I watched this episode with subtitles, and it gave this bitch a name. Sandra. Here's what I think about Sandra. I don't know who Sandra is. I don't know why I care about her. I don't know why she's talking to Hopper. And I am totally uninterested in her. And her being, like, sweet to him and talking to him. I don't like her. I'm pro Hopper and Joyce. I ship them as a couple.
Wow.
I do not like this bitch.
You have no reason for not liking her other than that she comes between some weird narrative you have in your head?
No.
She seems nice.
Well, yes.
She seems nice. She wakes up next to him. She doesn't do anything annoying. She just cares about him.
She does annoying things.
Oh, my God.
Called she
You're so
wasn't
fucking moronic. Go ahead. Tell me why she's a bad character.
No, bad writing. So the first episode
let me
begins.
hear it.
Yeah.
Bad writing.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you.
cannot wait.
Oh, I'll tell you. We begin the show with Hopper waking up by himself, nobody being in his life at all. And all of a sudden, the second episode, he's a serious girlfriend who cares about him and is in love with him.
Who said
Where was
she's...
she the first episode?
Whoa. Where does it say she's serious?
When she says...
What's wrong with her caring about him, even if it's only like a friends with benefits thing? You didn't have friends with benefits where you care about each other? That's ludicrous.
No.
Of course you did.
They were just friends with benefits.
That you didn't care about their well-being?
Not really. No, I'm just kidding.
God. You're ludicrous.
Whatever. I don't like her.
Fair enough.
I'm really down on her. I wrote that... What did I write about her? I'm not into her, is what I wrote.
That's nice.
That's my direct quote.
That's okay, because Hopper's into her, literally.
Well, I'm not, so you're dead to me, Sandra.
Mike's place. Elle sits down at the gaming table. This is my favorite scene of the episode.
Me too.
Elle sits down at the gaming table, and they gather around her. She concentrates on the miniatures for a minute, and then she picks up the wizard and says, Will.
And they're like, holy shit.
Superpowers.
Because
Justin
this
says.
must have been who Will played, right?
It was the wizard, yes.
Okay.
Mike asks if she saw him on Mirkwood. She then clears the miniatures away, flips the little
She
board over,
slams him over.
and pops the miniature down in the center of the table.
That's her answer. Will, she says.
Hiding. And the music gets real creepy here. Great soundtrack. Love this. We've talked a lot about it. Again, the name of the people who do this is, they're called Survive. And we'll link to them in the show notes. Definitely check them out. They're awesome. And they got some cool music that you should pick up. So Survive is what they're called. I'll link to their website in the show notes.
So,
anyway, Mike wants to know from who.
The bad man, basically.
He drops the Demigorgon. She drops the Demigorgon on the table.
No, she first.
Boom.
First, is it the bad men, like the people who are looking for Elle? Is that who's the problem with Will? Is that who Will's hiding from? But no, he's not. He's hiding from the Demogorgon, which I love this because I love the foreshadowing the first episode where the Demogorgon is going to get him, and he says, "Oh, it got me." I like that she flips the board over and clears everything else off because this is what it seems like to me. Based on the way Will is like calling Joyce apparently from this mystery phone, it's almost like he's in an alternate universe and he cannot actually be a part of the universe he belongs in. I think her flipping the board over onto the other side and clearing all the other pieces, but then putting the Demogorgon there shows that.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is great. This is good stuff. This
Very
is
good
Stephen
observation,
King
by the
level
way.
talk.
Very good
right?
observation.
I know I'm smart sometimes when you don't yell at me on the podcast.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a big time yeller. I'm yelling at you constantly.
By the way, Floyd in the chat also says he is not interested in Sandra.
I think he actually said, quote, I have to agree. A little too much of the come back to bed babe kind of talk for it to be nonchalant.
Thank you.
But I do like how you bent that to make it sound like
I'm like, Floyd actually said he agrees with me and he hates her. Thanks, Floyd.
So Jonathan, he pulls over near Mirkwood and starts taking pictures. Where are you? He says to nobody in particular. He goes deeper into the woods and hears a scream and then again, and he starts to move through this wooded area, and he gets to Steve's yard.
Oh, God.
He sees the pool shenanigans taking place.
Shotgunning beer.
Yep. We then get the perspective on Steve's place, which is, I'll stop the world and melt with you. Nancy chugs a beer or shotguns it. Barbara cuts her hand. Everyone ends up in the pool, in their clothes. Oh, youth. And then Jonathan snaps some images.
Yeah, because that's not creepy and stalkerish at all. Jonathan, I was high on you. I related to you, and then you were a stalker. So I'm a little concerned with that. But I guess I can move past it.
At Joyce's house, she gets a phone call. So again, with the phone with Joyce. We finally get a scene with Winona. We hear noises, static, muffled noises, distortion. She says she can hear him, and then we hear distinctly the word mom.
Definitely will.
She freaks out. Of course, the lights start to flicker. The phone burns up again. She throws it. She's got a rage on. She's very upset. And then the lights flicker back on, and then they start to flicker and lead her to Jonathan's room.
Yes.
So the lights seem to guide her. The clash starts, which is great. This really calls to the fact that they went to see Poltergeist. And I know this is something that Floyd pointed out too. But the fact that they went to see Poltergeist, and I don't know if you saw it, but, Carol Ann gets sucked into the TV, and you can always hear her voice.
Yeah, I
She's
saw that.
always around, but you can't get to her physically. That is very much an homage. This is very much an homage to that, and I thought that was really well done, especially considering the fact that they went to see Poltergeist together as a little family, which was cool. And now we're seeing the similar thing play out in the Byers household. The clash starts, it stops, and then she gets to the room. The wall starts to bend out.
There is something trying to break out from that wall.
This was very over the top. I was like, whoa. Like, this has been a very subtle show so far. I was like, whoa, this is big horror.
Subtle no more.
We're getting into some big horror when the wall starts to push out. And then
we
we
still
get
don't
this.
see like a monster trying to eat
No.
Joyce, which is nice.
We get cool percussion and the scary music. I love this. And you know what I like about this?
That she runs.
Yes.
Me too.
She's going to leave.
Me too.
She's gonna
You
leave.
Don't
She's
even
outta
know.
here.
I love this because in any other horror movie in the world, you know what Joyce would do? Not
Stay.
leave.
Yep.
But she's like, fuck this. I am out of here. And I say, Joyce, you are a woman after my own heart because I would also be out of there for sure. But she gets to the car and she stops because her mother's instinct overrides her instinct to protect herself. And that to me, and I'm not a mother, so I don't fucking know. But if that was I don't know.
Doesn't matter. You're a human being. You can understand things.
Sure. If it was my dog, I would be like, I better go rescue her.
Yeah. But what part of it is the clash kicks on again, almost like an
In her
indication.
car, yes.
No, in the house.
In her car. When she gets in her car, she turns the car on and it plays a clash, correct?
I thought it came back on when she was trying to leave. She was about to leave and the clash came back on in the house and she stopped.
Oh, I thought it played from her car.
Maybe. I could be wrong. So she shuts the car off, gathers herself, and heads back in. We go back to Steve's house. The kid's drying off. Nancy starts to head upstairs to change, and Barbara stops her at the foot of the stairs. She doesn't approve.
Barbara
And,
is like...
That's when Nancy says, you know what? Why don't you go home?
This is
Because you're a killjoy.
my reaction to this. Steve brings Nancy upstairs, quote unquote, to change. Barb is like, the fuck? Like, are
Barb
you
needs to lighten up,
serious?
seriously.
No. Barb is a good friend. Barb is a good friend, and I like Barb. I'm high on Barb.
Come on. We're just going to go have sex. Get
Nancy
over it.
is a little hoe. No, she's not. But she's going to regret this. She's going to regret it.
No,
I'm
she
pretty sure Steve is banging like 17 people.
That's all right. She'll be fine. She's also really skinny. She needs a fucking sandwich. We do see Jonathan stop taking photos for a moment.
Which point?
But then he takes photos of Barbara when the kids go. He shifts his focus down to
Oh,
Barbara,
right.
who's sitting on the diving board.
Because first, when Nancy sends Barb home, because she just cares about that D, is what I wrote.
That's right.
And not her BFF.
Barbara's totally killing her lady boner.
She takes her shirt off in front of Steve. Like, this is not like, she's like, Steve, don't look well, it changed.
It was
Then
cute.
she's like,
Come
oh,
on.
but wait, Steve, look. Here's my new bra.
So anyway,
I guess it was cute. And then they bang, I wrote. That's all I have to say about that romance. But back to Barb outside by the pool, sad.
yeah,
Bleeding into the pool.
she needs medical attention.
She 100% needs stitches. 100%.
She needs a lot of stitches. She's bleeding constantly. Her hand is soaked in blood. Well, it doesn't really matter because she gets eaten by a monster. So
Yeah, she's eaten and gone and dead. And Jonathan missed that
by
photographic
some
opportunity.
sort of weird faced creature. So that was a little crazy. I
Yeah.
was like, whoa.
My notes
Crazy
are just
monsters.
all caps. Like, suddenly she's grabbed by a demon, and Jonathan doesn't see because he has just looked away.
There you go. Anyway, while changing his reel, Jonathan, he misses this. So when he picks his camera back up, she's
Barb's
gone.
just gone. He's like, oh, fuck, she must have just fell in the pool. Gotta go, bye.
Inside, Nancy and Steve make out, and they get to the sexy time.
Yeah, I already talked about that because it means nothing to me.
Thus ends the episode.
Yeah,
so,
it does.
we are going to talk about some listener comments. So, Jessica,
yeah.
who do you want to talk about this week?
Well, I guess I'll read Jamie Lomas, even though he already left the chat, so he won't even hear it.
That's okay. Go for it.
Jamie Lomas says, when I watched the first episode, I thought I had a lot of promise that I was being way too obvious with the foreshadowing and stuff. The second episode was way better. So just some thoughts. 1, I like the title alluding to The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street from the Twilight Zone.
Great episode.
2, there were a few moments when I laughed out loud, like when Eleven was beginning to change into new clothes and the boys yelled, oh no, no, oh my God, oh my God. It was so adorable. Agreed.
Nice acting, Jess.
3, thank you. After the first episode, I thought the girl herself might be the monster. And although I've changed my mind on that, I can't get past the idea that Mike's "Do you hear that?" while playing Dungeons and Dragons in the first episode before introducing the Demogorgon also foreshadowed his saying, "Do you hear that?" in the woods right before Eleven appears. She may not be the monster, but I'm thinking she's at least the monster's opposite in some way. Maybe it's archenemy. And I would like to comment on that. This is why I miss the days of Jamie Lomas blogging, because he would always say like really smart shit that like we would forget. So I appreciate that, because that is a great catch.
Very good catch.
4, when Mike activated the recliner for 11, her shy little smile broke my heart. She's such a great actress. 5, the flickering lamps and music leading Joyce to the bedroom are creepy as hell. Very cool. And her resolve to return to the house after what she just saw, that really took a lot of guts. I love Winona Ryder's performance in the show, but I'm not crazy about her being a Mom Jean's character. Why can't we have the heavy-breathing Winona Ryder from Bram Stoker's Dracula?
I know, right?
I really love this show.
I feel
I'm
you,
just
Jamie.
sad there are only 8 episodes.
I feel you, Jamie. Good news, they were renewed for a second season. It's official.
Yeah, they were.
Floyd Fry emailed us. He said a lot of crossover references in this. In the flashback last week, we find out that Joyce took Will to see Poltergeist. And as I was just saying, he says, much like that movie, Will seems to be in the house but not reachable. Also, the Mike and Elle relationship has obvious parallels to E.T. He also says the show very naturally starts to add layers to the Hopper character. Just a simple mention that he used to be a big city cop makes us question why he returned, and also lets us know that somewhere under the Marlboros and Bush Light, there's probably a real cop. Stopping a fan is one thing, and we can only assume she killed guys at the restaurant with mind bullets because we didn't actually see it. But when she starts slamming the door with her mind and not letting them leave, I kind of get the feeling these 3 boys in Elle are like when you see a toddler pulling the ears of a pit bull. They have no idea what they're dealing with, and things could go bad if they let it get out of control. And there's not much they could do about it. Indeed, they are just children playing with some pretty big powers. Good stuff by Floyd. Thank you for participating. We really appreciate that, guys. Jessica?
Yes?
Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Just that I like the show. I'm into it. I look forward to talking about it in the future. And I'm excited to see what happens. I think we're building on a lot of things. I think there's a lot of different characters and a lot of stuff going on. But I think an 8-episode season is a good run for a season, because I think we've got a half a season to establish characters and a half a season to really get through the plot.
For sure. Good stuff. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in again. We will be back in roughly 1 week.
More or less.
Stay on schedule.libertystreetgeek.net for updates. You might want to check it every few days based on the way we're doing the show, as it is a binge show. But we are going to get out of here. Catch you on the flip side.